You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Down the right field, stumbling start for Stewart. It's close to deep left field by Alvarez. That's going to go in 4 straight games for the second time in he's homered in 4.
What's up, New York Mets fans? It's your boy CP, and welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. This is an impromptu off-day stream. I had a couple of minutes to sit here and talk Mets baseball, so I figured I'd toss up a stream. We'd recap the NLDS, talk about some NLCS action because your New York Mets are headed to the NLCS for the first time since 2015. How good does it feel, Mets fans? How good does it feel? Please, if you're in the chat, I definitely appreciate you all being here. I know it's a little bit of an early stream. You know, each time we go live on a weekday before 5 p.m., I know people are still working, people are busy. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on the replay, please hit the thumbs up button on this stream. Make sure you drop those comments in the live chat as well. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here. Again, what an exciting time to be a New York Mets fan. We were absolutely hyped on the post game last night. If you somehow missed it, I'm sure there were so many Mets content creators doing post games on both sides. The Phillies and their fans were definitely, I saw a couple of post games. They were pretty pissed off. They were pretty sad. And you know what? Our New York Mets get the job done for us. The post game, if you missed it, the link's in the description down below in this live stream. Look at this face from Kodai Senga. Look at that reaction. Look at that reaction. As soon as Lindor's baseball went out in the 6th inning on the grand slam. Look at all these guys' reactions right here. This is absolutely beautiful to see. This whole damn team is a vibe, man. Look at this. The eye black in the dugout, sipping on his coffee, his water, Gatorade. I don't know what's in that cup, but he's having a damn good time. And honestly, I'm not sure he's seen anything like that. Look at that face. That was me basically in front of my TV screen. My jaw dropped when I saw that ball go off the bat of Francisco Lindor. Wow. How are we feeling, Mets fans? Woo. It feels damn good. It feels damn good. Wow. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I definitely appreciate you all. The usual suspects. And if you're new here, please do not be shy. If you're on X, come over to the YouTube. Make sure you go ahead and hit the YouTube link. I tweeted it out. If you follow me on there, want to shout out the chat. D's in the chat. I had the live chat poll going as well. So again, that's more incentive for you all to come let me know your thoughts and opinions on who you'd rather face in the NLCS. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Live chat poll. Padres or Dodgers as they head to a Game 5 back in Los Angeles in that series tomorrow after the Dodgers took Game 4 by a score of 8-0. D is saying, I'd rather face the Dodgers, and here's why. Depleted pitching, and Freeman is hobbled with an ankle injury. Yeah, that sprained ankle was nasty that he suffered in, I believe, the last series of the season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yeah, that was nasty. I think you could say both teams are also a little bit depleted as well. I mean, the Padres lost Ha-Seong Kim for the year, and also they just, lost Joe Musgrove for the year, which is why Dylan Cease presumably was pitching on short rest, and it didn't work out for the Padres in Game 4. And you see on the Dodgers' perspective, the Dodgers side, they threw a bullpen game. They might even do another bullpen game in Game 5. That's how dire things are in terms of their starting rotation. So that's a great point by UD, 100%. San Diego despises Winker, so that could be fun too. Shout out to Oliver. Shout out to Ethan. Is there an option for the in-pool doesn't matter just – in the poll, doesn't matter just win? No, I should have put that up there because honestly, at this point, I agree with you, Ethan. If that's what you would have chosen, if not the Padres or the Dodgers, I agree with you. At this point, with the way the Mets are rolling, bring on anybody. Bring on anybody. Shout out to you, Darren. I see Lulu in the chat as well, saying what's up to everybody. I'm trying to find Lulu's comment. Shout out to Lulu. Happy Thursday. It is the happiest of Thursdays. Nobody could be happier on this Thursday than Mets fans. Maybe Kodai Senga. Maybe he's the only one. Wow. Let's talk about it, though. Let's talk about it. Again, I'll keep it interactive. Make sure you drop those live chat comments. Hit the thumbs up button, as always. Spam the W's. I know we do that for post games, and everybody was spamming the W's last night in the chat, which was awesome to see. But the Mets eliminate the Philadelphia Phillies, right? On the off day, I had Nick on a couple days ago as this series was transitioning over to games 3 and 4 at Citi Field. We were talking about a little bit of a recap for games 1 and 2, so I don't really feel inclined to recap games 1 and 2. But you see here, games 3 and 4, the Mets went home. They hadn't played in a couple of weeks at their home ballpark, and they did not disappoint. They absolutely delivered. And that Citi Field crowd for games 3 and 4 is something that is spectacular. I mean, the vibes in Queens right now are on a different level. Rob was saying, right, shame on Fox for having to lower the crowd noise on their broadcast. I think they have to because you probably wouldn't even be able to hear the game, to be honest with you. That's how loud it seemed to be at Citi Field. And for those of you all that went and supported the Mets, you know, props to you. I wish I could do that. I wish I was in the area to do that. That seems like such a fun environment, and I'm sure everybody was having a blast. You see all the crowds in the post-game dancing, singing in the streets. I love it. This is what New York Mets baseball is all about. And as Francisco Lindor and now Carlos Mendoza is catching on to the phrase, as they say, Mets Nation, fully supporting that team from Queens. Listen, it was a Game 3 victory, 7-2 for the New York Mets. Sean Manaea, ace, did what all aces do. He went out there and provided 7 innings of 1-run baseball. He stifled the Phillies lineup. He had them off-balanced all game long. We know the home run, the long ball production in games 3 and 4. We'll talk about Francisco Lindor. I have a whole slide dedicated to Francisco Lindor because how can you not? That guy is the MVP. He's my MVP, and I know he's all Mets fans' MVP because how could he not be? But again, Sean Manaea, it starts with the pitching. It always, this whole entire season, if you look back, even going back to game 1, it starts with the pitching. They have held down the fort all season long, and in these playoffs has been no different. Sean Manaea, 91 pitches, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run, getting hitters off balance. He was mixing in the sinker upstairs and also the sweeper down and away. Carlos Mendoza, manager of the year, 100%. When he gets into a jam, Bryce Harper's up in a crucial spot in the game at that time. I believe it was still 2-0 if my memory serves me correct. That was before the 2 RBI single by Starling Marte into center field. First and second, nobody out, Bryce Harper coming up. Everybody's in Carlos Mendoza's ear. Take him out. Take him out. His pitching coach is telling him the same thing. Take him out. And Jeremy Hefner, you know what he does? You know what a manager of the year does? And that's what Carlos Mendoza did. He listens to his gut. He trusts his gut. And his gut told him, trust in your ace. He's going to get you out of this inning. And then the bullpen, the next inning, with a clean slate, can take it over. It's not many pitchers in this league that are able to make Bryce Harper look foolish and to make him look timid. And there's not many pitchers in this league that can work a count to their favor very quickly and have Bryce Harper change up his approach to be all contact, no power. Let me just get rid of my stride. I'm not going to do any leg kick. I'm going to sit on my back leg and try to just poke this the opposite way. There's not many pitchers in this league that can make Bryce Harper do that. But in the at-bat where he got a strikeout on Bryce Harper for the first out of the inning with runners on first and second and nobody out, that's what Sean Manaea did. What a sequence by Sean Manaea. And obviously, hard hit or relatively hard hit ball by Nick Castellanos right into the glove of Jose Iglesias. Boom, double play. Get the force out at second. I believe it was Schwarber that was getting off the bag a little bit too far. He was a little bit antsy out there, and they caught him sleeping. Inning over, just like that. Again, if you go and you put in a bullpen arm in that situation, who knows what happens? The whole trajectory of the game could flip 180. It could, right? Because again, you see here at the bottom of your screen, I'm pointing out two things that I saw and that everyone saw in this series that separated a team like the Mets from a team like the Phillies in the bullpen and just the overall offense production. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But again, trusting your guy who has been your best pitcher all season is something that you just need to do. And Carlos Mendoza did it. I see some more people in the chat here. I appreciate you all. Agreed, CP, Ray says. Again, if you're just tuning in here, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe if you're new. We're going to be here for you all postseason long. For the NLCS and beyond if the Mets make it there. One step at a time. One step at a time. So, yes, just like Brock is saying, smash those like buttons. So, again, it was an electric Game 3 victory for the New York Mets. Jesse Winker, I mean, that's electric factory right there. Smashes a home run off the bat. He knows it's gone. Sits there, stares at it, bat flip. I mean, it's time for some excitement in the game of baseball. I know some people might not like the theatrics. I understand that. I get it. But you know what? It's about time this Mets team has some character. It's about time this Mets team has some fun. I look at a team in 2022, and they're even saying this on MLB Network. I'm not the only one, and I'm sure everyone saw it back in 2022 under Buck Showalter. You take a look at that season, and this is not any shade to Buck Showalter, but it just didn't seem like that team had the same aura, the same fun, and the same excitement surrounding them while they were winning games. That was a very successful team. But again, it just felt like they didn't have an identity. It feels like the 2024 Mets have an identity now. Multiple, maybe. With the OMG, the Hawk Tua, the Jesse Winker bat flip. I mean, you can go on and on and on about the persona and the vibes that are surrounding this team. Grimace, how can I forget Grimace? I see now we have these Grimace emojis on YouTube, which is awesome. I didn't even know about that. I was shocked when I saw that on the post game yesterday in the live chat. That's awesome. It seems like they have some persona. And I think that starts from the top down. Carlos Mendoza has been in, a part of New York baseball, whether it's Queens or, Bronx, in the Bronx with the Yankees for quite some time. He knows New York baseball. And I think that he's allowing this team to have some personality. And I love that. And I love that. And I'm sure the players do too. You got Pumpkin Patch Pete. I mean, anything that can stick with this team is sticking. OMG. Can't forget OMG. You cannot forget OMG. Shout out to Candelita. I mean, it's unreal. But never mind that fact. Let's go back into the recap. I'm kind of getting, off track. And my guy Rob is going to be live after I'm done being live. So if you want to talk more Mets baseball and spend your Thursday the right way, Rob is going live at 5:45. I'll be done by that time. I'll be off, and you guys can go ahead and go to his live chat as well. We'll probably get a roundtable in. Hopefully tomorrow, we'll see. We've been meaning to do a roundtable, but again, 0-5 to OMG. Listen, the Mets knew that going into Game 4, us fans knew this. They knew this. They did not want this to go back to Philly for Game 5. You had to avoid that situation at all costs. I'm really shocked that the Phillies and Rob Thompson did not elect to throw Zach Wheeler in that game to limit the damage. I am very shocked. You talk about going down with your best. I thought that there was multiple points in that game where Rob Thompson could have been a lot more aggressive from the Phillies' perspective and put Zach Wheeler in the ball game for a guaranteed, basically, I would probably say, shutdown inning, right? Not overuse him, but at least put him in there as you're fighting for your life in a potential game that's going to eliminate you. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Rob Thompson did not do it. We talked about it on the pregame. I was positive that we were going to see that. And I'm surprised, right? To my liking, because I didn't want to see Zach Wheeler out there. Nobody wanted to see Zach Wheeler out there. Pete Alonso sure as hell did not want to see Zach Wheeler out there after he took the offer against him in that first game with 3 strikeouts before the Mets finally saw the bullpen. But again, that's just what happens on an inning by inning, pitch by pitch basis in your decision making as a manager. And I can confidently say the New York Mets manager and Carlos Mendoza, my strong candidate, the leader of the movement for manager of the year, in my humble opinion, I'm sorry, not sorry about it, outmanaged Rob Thompson. He did. So you go into this game, Ranger Suarez is on the mound. You got Ranger Suarez versus Jose Quintana, 2 southpaws, soft tossing southpaws, both throwing sinkers. You know, the Mets, they get some early production. They get guys on base against Ranger Suarez. They're making him throw pitches. I mean, he threw almost 30 pitches in that first inning. The Mets were seeing him well. Let me rephrase that. They were seeing him well outside of the curveball because every single time the Mets had Ranger Suarez on the ropes, he just utilized that curveball and nobody could figure it out. Francisco Lindor couldn't figure it out. Francisco Alvarez couldn't figure it out. JD Martinez couldn't figure it out. Like nobody. Brandon Nimmo couldn't figure it out. So at the end of the day, the Mets had multiple opportunities to put that game away in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning, and they failed to do so. 1st and 2nd, nobody out, bases loaded, less than 2 outs. I mean, you name it, the situation presented itself, and the Mets couldn't get through. But you kind of had that feeling, right? Again, with the way the rest of the series had played out, you had that feeling like, okay, it's only a matter of time. If I know this Mets team, if it's not against Ranger Suarez, whoever they toss in from that bullpen, they're going to get the job done. And we need to shout out Jose Quintana, by the way. We need to shout out Jose Quintana. This is a guy that, again, in the pregame, if you're a part of Mason Mets pregame shows, as I know everybody in this live chat right now is, for the most part. But again, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. We do pregames, postgames, and off-day talks just like this one. I always go into Quintana starts 50-50. Don't expect too much. But again, I have enough trust in the guy not to expect too little. This guy, whether it's the Milwaukee game, September as a month in total, right? Just the entire month of September for him. The Milwaukee game 3 game where he went out there and just pitched his ass off. And now when you needed this series and you needed to take it at home and not go back to Philly, and you need that production in terms of holding a talented Phillies lineup at bay, he did just that. 5 innings pitched, 2 hits given up, 1 run, which was not earned because of the Mark Vientos bobble. Again, he made the same mistake as he did in Philly in terms of trying to grab the baseball and throw to home plate before he actually had it in his hands and just ends up bobbling it and loses the play in its entirety. But again, 90 pitches, 2 walks, just absolutely, again, stifled the Phillies lineup. And that goes to show you, if you're locating your spots, if you're very strategic about the pitch locations, right, the pitch sequences, you don't have to have a 96, 97 mile per hour fastball to be successful in this league. I would like for you as a fan and as someone who talks about this team, I would like for you to have that kind of fastball. But again, I think that there's certain pitchers in this league, Quintana being one of them, that can be effective while not having that electricity. You just have to be that much better everywhere else with your pitches. You're damn right, Ray. You're damn right. Quintana is right. I mean, do we have to spell it out for you? Quintana. Clutch. Veteran presence. Proved me the hell wrong pretty much the entire season outside of a really rough patch. He did. He did. But again, you keep the game close in terms of the game 4 that we just witnessed last night, and you let the offense do their thing. You let the offense do their thing. And when it comes down to it, as I said in the pregame, please, I posted a clip about this on my Instagram. I posted a reel. I posted a clip of me, talking on the pregame yesterday. I said, the Phillies bullpen has nothing on the New York Mets. They have nothing on the Mets. This entire series, they've had nothing against the New York Mets. Hoffman, I believe at the time, loads the bases. He gets Alvarez. It was bases loaded, nobody out again in the ball game. JD Martinez on third base. Starling Marte at second base. Forgot who was on first base. That isn't really Tyrone Taylor. He worked the walk off 3-2. He worked the walk to load the bases. Francisco Alvarez comes up. Hoffman gets him to ground into a fielder's choice with the force out at home. JD Martinez is out. Rob Thompson elects to go with Estevez. And I'm not really quite sure why, because unless I'm remembering incorrectly here, I believe Estevez threw in the game prior. Did he not? Let me go back here and check Tuesday's ball game. I'm pretty sure Estevez threw in that game. He did. He pitched 1 inning, and he threw 26 pitches in that inning in the Mets 7-2 victory. I'm not really sure. Again, I'm not a Phillies fan. I don't really pay attention to them. The entire season, I don't know the ins and outs of, their strengths versus their weaknesses. Obviously, Estevez was brought in, and he was one of the better relievers on the market at the trade deadline, and the Phillies went up and snagged him. We talked about him on the channel multiple times on our deadline streams. But Rob Thompson elects to go with Estevez. And he looked pretty electric. I'm not going to lie. He's a hard thrower. He's a flamethrower. He throws 100 miles per hour, and he definitely got the best of Lindor in the first half of that at-bat. I believe at one point for strike 2, he blew a 100-mile-per-hour fastball right by Francisco Lindor. But what do MVPs do? They make adjustments, not only in-game, but mid-at-bat adjustments. And that's what Francisco Lindor did. He goes up there in what is the most important at-bat of the game at that point. You need to cash in. You were already 3 of 15, I believe, to that point, with 10 men left on base, with runners in scoring position. You have to cash in. And not only did Lindor cash in, he cashed in the best and biggest way possible. He hits a grand slam. I mean, he drove that thing. I was confident that I was going to be in the gap for maybe a double. I did not think it had the carry to leave the ballpark, but it did. And we are forever thankful and grateful that it did. Shout out to Francisco Lindor. I mean, nobody else in the Mets lineup, maybe outside of Mark Vientos, that you want in that situation, in that at-bat. And we need to shout out Mark Vientos. We need to shout out Mark Vientos. This guy is a stud. He went 9 for 16 in this Phillies series. That's a 560 batting average. 560. 9 for 16, a pair of home runs in that wild game 2, and 5 RBIs. Can we wrap our heads around that production? Because you don't just have to worry about, if you're the Phillies, Francisco Lindor beating you. You don't have to worry about only worry about Pete Alonso beating you. But again, as a manager, you make the adjustment on Carlos Mendoza's side in the lineup and put him back in the 2-hole, where at spurts in the season, he's looked absolutely phenomenal. The guy just doesn't stop hitting. 9 for 16 for Mark Vientos. If that doesn't impress you or wow you, I don't know what will. Crazy production. Yes, say his name. Mark Vientos is here. 100%. Historic hit for Lindor. 100%. I mean, these top two guys in this lineup, everybody produced. Everybody contributed. JD Martinez contributed. Starling Marte contributed this series, right? Tyrone Taylor. Pete Alonso is finally looking like he's getting it going after that crucial home run in Game 3 in Milwaukee. Brandon Nimmo, Vientos, Lindor, Iglesias, this whole lineup, no matter who's thrown out there 1 through 9, is contributing. And that's where it leads me into in terms of letting you all know with the numbers in support, the two differences, there's 3 differences between the Phillies and the Mets and what separated the Mets in this NLDS matchup versus the Phillies. There's 3. You only see 2 on this slide. We'll get to the 3rd one in the next slide. First up, Mets offense. I'm looking at total production, the total production volume across these 4 games in the NLDS. We came into this postseason, and especially this NLDS, knowing and talking about how talented, top to bottom, that Phillies lineup is. We were wondering if the layoff for them and getting that bye and kind of skipping over the wild card series was going to come back to haunt them in terms of getting off to a slow start. I'm not going to give that excuse to them. Again, I don't really believe in that, but you understand what I'm saying. That's been long talked about, especially historically, with these expanded wild cards that the MLB started implementing. But credit to the Mets pitching staff and their bullpen, but just credit to the Mets offense as well. It's a total team effort. It's a collective effort. Shout out Cindy in the chat as well. Appreciate you stopping by. Again, please hit the thumbs up buttons if you all can. Vote in the live chat poll. We'll talk about that here in just a second in the end. But again, the Mets offense in 4 games put up 23 runs, 36 hits to produce those 23 runs, and they had 12 extra base hits over those 4 games. You talk about the home runs, the doubles, right? Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, Francisco Lindor, getting it done, extra base hits galore. And you talk about the Phillies offense. Only 12 runs across these 4 games. Right? You talk about the hits. What is it, 24? I can barely see my own screen here with the color differences here. 24 hits, I think that says. Again, the Mets just outpacing the Phillies offense. And only 8 extra base hits for this Phillies offense. That is one of the major differences. And George, you're 100% right. How can you skip over David Peterson providing the Mets multiple times in this series with long relief? I mean, David Peterson, no matter what role he's had with this Mets team, whether it's out of the bullpen in the postseason or whether it's as a starter, being one of the better starters, probably the best starter outside of Sean Manaea in 2024, tip your cap to David Peterson. He got the job done. But this is also just a key difference here between this series, right? I don't know what happened with this Phillies bullpen. You had Strahm, you had Estevez, you had Alvarado, you had Hoffman. For the large majority of their season, again, I don't pay attention much to Phillies baseball outside of when the Mets play them, but it seemed like on paper, they were having a decent season. But you look at the bullpen production and the differences between the Mets bullpen and the Phillies bullpen in terms of the actual production value. And the Mets bullpen is one that many people did not believe in outside of myself. I was a firm believer in this Mets bullpen, particularly, after they got healthy, after Edwin Diaz finally started trusting his fastball, which he needs to start doing more of because the slider just needs some work going into this NLCS matchup. But Ryan Stanek, you add him in, you throw a guy like David Peterson into your bullpen, it's looking good. Reed Garrett looks dominant again. I always believed in him. I know some people sold their stock on Reed Garrett once he started hitting a little bit of a wall. I never did. Guy's talented. Electric fastball, fantastic splitter. 6 earned runs, no home runs, and only 12 hits in 4 games for this Mets bullpen against the Phillies offense. And honestly, outside of that debacle of a game 2 where Jose Butto struggled, right? Edwin Diaz struggled in game 2. Outside of that, you're looking at even better numbers than what you have in green here under the Mets bullpen. Conversely, the Phillies gave up 16 earned runs. They allowed 4 home runs, and they allowed 20 hits even across the 4 games. That is, as a Phillies fan, that would make me sick. Like if I was a Phillies fan, that would make me sick. That I would look at that as a Phillies fan, and I was like, I don't even know what I would say at that point. I would not know what I would say. That would make me sick. But again, you got to give credit to the Mets offense as well for putting that continued pressure on that bullpen. So, listen, electric. Let's go, Mets. Let's go. Let's go. That's your recap right there. Again, just like every facet of the game, the Mets excelled in, more so by a couple miles even over the Phillies. It was a clean baseball approach from the Mets. And you know what? Rob Thompson, in his post-game press conference, talking about what went wrong for the Phillies after they were eliminated, saying they got beat in a short series. Spare me. I mean, I respect their players, right? They seem to have nothing but good things to say about the Mets. And Rob Thompson as well, I definitely respect him. He gave a lot of respect to Carlos Mendoza. Apparently, they know each other from way back. I'm sure he's a great guy. But that's not what you want to hear from your manager if you're a Phillies fan saying your team got beat in a short series. I mean, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. But this is the third difference here. And again, before I proceed on, please hit the thumbs up on this stream. If you're a Mets fan, if you're not subscribed yet, if you're watching over on X, come over to YouTube, vote in the live chat poll. Continue to drop those comments in the live chat. I love seeing and hearing what you all think about this team, especially on this off day after the Mets just clinched a trip to the NLCS for the first time since 2015. I want to know what you all as viewers are thinking right now. But this is the third difference here in what we realized put the Mets over the top from the Philadelphia Phillies. You talk about shortstop production for the New York Mets and lack thereof for the Philadelphia Phillies. Francisco Lindor is a game changer. If you don't know that by now, I don't know what to tell you. Francisco Lindor is a game changer. MVP him. You look at the differences here, and this is beyond just actual offensive production. It goes beyond that, right? Because you see the offensive production differences here between Lindor and Trey Turner. Again, Trey Turner, great ball player. He's not in the same conversation as Francisco Lindor. Sorry. And we saw on the biggest stage up until this point of the season, this is why. But and again, I don't want to over-explain it. You see it here on your screen here, 3 extra base hits to 0, 5 RBIs to 0, 5 for 18 versus 3 for 15. That's self-explanatory. But something that makes, and I don't want to question the leadership of anybody on the Philadelphia Phillies, but something that in particular on our side that we know we get from Francisco Lindor, despite whatever defense he's playing, which is always Gold Glove caliber, despite whatever offensive production we're getting from him, Take a look at that mound visit that the Mets had where Jeremy Hefner went out and had a conversation with Edwin Diaz in the last inning of last night's ballgame before he shut the door and struck out Kyle Schwarber. We all know Edwin Diaz, the slider, is just simply not sharp. We know that. He knows that. The Mets probably know that. But again, he's going to be pitching in these ball games. If the Mets want to get to the promised land, Edwin Diaz is going to be a part of that. Make no mistake about it. During the mound visit, Jeremy Hefner's talking with Edwin Diaz. The whole team's like surrounded. I'm sure you guys have seen the clip, but I just kind of want to replay it in case you haven't. Go out there somewhere on X. I'm sure it's out there. And Lindor's kind of like looking around, and I guess he just had enough with with what Jeremy Hefner was saying. I don't know. I don't know what clicked in Lindor's head, but he taps Diaz on the shoulder, and he says something to him, something about trust your fastball. I'm assuming that's what he said. And we've been pleading on all of our streams for Edwin Diaz to just trust in his fastball that sits anywhere from 97 to 100 miles per hour with some run on it. If the slider's not working, okay. That's like gravy for Edwin Diaz. But most of these hitters are not going to figure out your fastball. So just trust in it. And that's the leadership value that goes unnoticed sometimes. And I need to bring that up about Francisco Lindor. He is a game changer, both with his production and the leadership that he brings. And it's time that people start recognizing that. And I know a lot of people have already recognized that. But again, I just need to rehash that and bring that back up. It's important. Shout out to Francisco Lindor. This was your difference between the shortstop production between Trea Turner and Francisco Lindor. We have some news, right? We have some news. Jeff McNeil, according to Anthony DeComo on his X account, I dropped a short on this on my channel a couple of hours ago. Make sure you go ahead and check that out and hit the thumbs up button on that short as well if you missed it. But all indications are pointing to the fact that Jeff McNeil is going to be on this NLCS roster. I mean, we saw him taking ground balls in Philly. We know he's been with the team. We know that he's been recovering from that fractured wrist that he suffered late in the season. But, I mean, the guy's going to be back. The guy's going to be back. And you have to wonder whose spot, as Ray is asking me here, who will go, in favor of Jeff McNeil getting the roster spot. I don't think that many people are going to want to hear it. But again, I think it's a no harm, no foul type of scenario where, it's most likely, more than likely, if this holds true, that it's going to be Luis Angel Acuna that's going to be off of the NLCS roster in favor of Jeff McNeil. Listen, Luis Angel Acuna is going to be with this organization. He stepped up in a tremendous way when Francisco Lindor had to miss some time with the back injury. He produced in a major way, both defensively and offensively. And again, he's going to be an amazing ball player and a part of this Mets future. But I don't think that there's any harm or foul in terms of replacing these guys because at the end of the day, Luis Angel Acuna hasn't been playing. He's been a late game defensive replacement. He's not going to be getting consistent at bats. He's not going to be getting the playing time over Iglesias, Lindor, or Vientos. He's not going to be fit into this lineup anywhere from now until the end. So I don't think that there's any harm in terms of making this move. Now, again, this is all premature talk because the Mets have a couple of days, and that's what's so beautiful about having this off day and having tomorrow and the next day be an off day is that they have some time to decide and further assess, the status of Jeff McNeil and whether he's actually going to be ready. There was some talk about him going into the Arizona Fall League and getting some at-bats to try to ramp up. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's happened. I don't know if that's going to happen ahead of the Mets going out to California to face either the Dodgers or the Padres. But again, keep an eye out on this if and when this news drops that Jeff McNeil is likely going to be back and on this team. So just wanted to point that out there. A little bit of a news, I guess, clip from Metsland surrounding a potential roster spot. And you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, is Jeff McNeil going to start for this team? I don't think so. I don't think Jeff McNeil is going to start for this team. There's nowhere for him to play. If I'm the Mets, with all due respect to Jeff McNeil, I would love to have that veteran presence on the bench, potentially a pinch hit opportunity for him. Although with the way the two DHs are going, it's kind of hard to sort of pick McNeil even over them because I think that Winker and Martinez have been producing. But defensively, right, with the way the Mets outfield is configured, I don't think you can take Tyrone Taylor out of the equation. I think that he has to keep starting for you. And especially because you don't know what you're going to get from Jeff McNeil off of this injury in terms of how game ready he's going to be. You know, I think that Jeff McNeil is going to be, on the bench. And again, you can't take Starling Marte out. You can maybe DH Starling Marte, but again, JD Martinez is swinging a decent bat. Winker is producing. Are you going to prioritize Marte DHing and taking one of their bats out of the lineup in order to get Jeff McNeil in the lineup? I'm not convinced. But we'll see. Again, this is a little bit of a premature discussion. Yes, Ken, Martinez is producing. JD Martinez is producing. Isn't JD Martinez hitting like 300 in the postseason so far? I think you need to fact check yourself there, Ken. Pretty sure he's hitting 300 as far as this postseason goes. He's 4 for 14, whatever that calculates out to. Let me do that calculation real quick. I should have had that on hand. 4 for 14 equates to 286. He's hitting 286 in the postseason. I think he's producing. I think that's what you call production. So, anyways, that's my McNeil take. Again, we'll talk about it when the news drops, but expect it. Just expect it. This is the NLCS outlook. Again, to get these guys rested and to have taken that game 4 from the Phillies and end the series early is so vital for the Mets because now you get to align your rotation with extra rest however you want to. And that's something that a depleted and injured Padres rotation and Dodgers rotation already can't do first and foremost, even if their series ended early. But again, they have to play that game 5, which is going down in LA tomorrow. They're not going to be able to align their rotation as well as the Mets. So this is what I'm looking out for, right, in terms of how this rotation will align going into the NLCS for the Mets. Kodai Senga, who is definitely going to start game 5, should there have been one in Philadelphia. You're going to have Sean Manaea pitching on regular rest in game 2, I would have to imagine. Luis Severino probably gets the ball in game 3. And then you have to make a decision depending on how you utilize David Peterson in those first 3 games, who you want to start in game 4. Not going to lie, I think that the Mets are going to, and again, it's a little bit of a lengthier series here. So you're going to have to sort of play your cards a different way. Whereas, in a short series, as Rob Thompson was saying, maybe that factored into some of his managerial decisions. I don't know, but it's a different ballgame now. So Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, and either Quintana or Peterson. I don't know if the Mets can afford to use Peterson as much as they did in the bullpen in this series. That role might have to go to Tyler McGill in terms of being that long reliever because you're going to need David Peterson presumably to start one of these games. I would have to imagine. But again, Carlos Mendoza has been on the money with all of these decisions so far. He's going to make that call. But you see, TBD, we don't know who we're playing. And that's where the live chat poll comes in. Speaking of, we go in here into the live chat poll. Excuse the audio if there's any echo. 25 people in the chat, 17 thumbs up. Smash those thumbs up buttons for me. I definitely appreciate it. We have 31 votes in the live chat as well. So 31 people stopped by in here. Make sure you keep hitting those thumbs up buttons. I definitely appreciate it. My question to you all was, who would you rather the Mets face in the NLCS? Surprisingly, 77% of the 31 votes so far have said the Los Angeles Dodgers. So it seems like you all in the chat are prioritizing facing the Dodgers over the Padres. I'm not inclined to disagree with that. I'm not. For the same reasons that D said when this live stream first started, Freeman's a little bit hurt. You got bullpen games that the Dodgers have to now resort to. I don't know. I think you can argue both ways, but I think right now the Padres might pose a little bit of a bigger threat to the Mets than the Dodgers. But again, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you ask for. I think that it should not really matter between these two teams who the Mets play. I think we all have enough confidence in this team with what they've been putting forth in this postseason. And, ever since June basically rolled around, that this team can get the job done no matter which team they play in the Padres or the Dodgers. So I truly believe that. Let's get to some of these chat comments here. We're going to finish up this stream in just a couple of minutes. Again, make sure you all are going over to Talking Mets with Rob's channel. He's going to be live here in about, I believe, 8 minutes or so. So I'll try to get finished here before then. Patrick is saying Senga isn't going a full game. That's why you use Peterson. And that's valid. I think that's valid. Kodai Senga obviously is not ready to go out there and throw 90 to 100 pitches. He's going to be out there and presumably working off of a great first start out in game 1 of the NLDS where he threw 31 pitches. He got 3 strikeouts. The ghost fork was moving. He was topping 97 on the radar gun. But again, you're going to see 55, 60, 65 pitches from Senga if we're lucky. And hopefully that carries the Mets into the 4th inning. So I agree. That's a potential scenario to use David Peterson again for that long relief. That's a great point by Patrick. 100%. Seems like Senga could be out there game 1. Yep. Oliver saying McNeil is enrolling in the Winker School of Fish. I expect big things. I can always count on Oliver to keep this chat light. I appreciate that. Christopher saying, I thought McNeil was out for the year. Think again, Christopher. Thank you for joining this live chat, for always being a supporter of the channel as well. Appreciate you. McNeil is on his way back. And again, nothing is official just yet. The Mets will make this decision probably in the next day or so, but all indications point to the fact that McNeil will be on the NLCS roster. Again, I would just not expect for him to start. If you're going to expect that, I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I don't expect it to happen. D's saying, I like Acuna too, but it has to be done. Yeah, again, if you're not going to play the guy was great for you down the stretch. Played meaningful baseball, tremendous baseball for you, especially in that Phillies series where you really needed to take that series to make a playoff push in Citi Field and taking 3 or 4. Acuna was the man. But again, if you're not going to play him and you're not going to play him meaningful innings or give him meaningful at-bats, which I understand the rationale behind, I don't think anybody's going to advocate for him to play over the guys that are in the infield right now. I mean, it might have to be done, right? They're saying either one, Padres or Dodgers, would be fine. There is payback for Padres. There's the payback aspect for the Padres from 2022 and Dodgers for 1988. But I want Dodgers to get knocked out, whether it's Padres or Mets who do it. Yeah, I don't think any of us in here, I don't think any Mets fans like the Dodgers per se. But yeah, great point. See some LAs in here. Appreciate all the chats, guys. You guys are awesome. It's only 5:40 p.m. on this Thursday afternoon. Yes, this is a great point right here. As long as McNeil's off the bench, I truly think that there's no rhyme or reason to Jeff McNeil starting for a multitude of factors. I think that it would be a mistake. Again, I don't think they're going to do it. I think he's just going to be a bench piece. Again, I will come out and say that. Yep. Comments are awesome, guys. I appreciate it. Jay saying, not answering that poll at all. I do not care who they play. Never ask for an opponent. Just play whoever comes up. I understand that perspective as well, Jay. I should have honestly added a third option for the poll in terms of saying, I don't care, bring on whoever, but I didn't. So I respect your decision not to answer the poll 100%. Listen, it's a great time to be a Mets fan. I don't know if you all remember the last off day podcast stream that I did with Nick from the He Did This To Me podcast, who's going to be live as well on his channel talking about Mets baseball and a plethora of other subjects at 8 p.m. So again, make sure you subscribe over to those guys. Father and Son podcast, always optimistic. I said at the end of that podcast when we were rounding things out, I wanted to see more celebrations. I wanted to see more celebrations in the clubhouse with the champagne and the beer and whatever, and also on the field. It was awesome to see the guys go straight to Francisco Lindor. Obviously, Edwin Diaz, who closed out the ball game, he's not going to be part of those celebrations for obvious reasons in terms of, what happened in the World Baseball Classic. But again, the guys went straight to Francisco Lindor, group hug, you know how it goes. And the Mets are a whole vibe right now. The Mets are a whole vibe. It's just absolutely amazing when you look back at this season in its entirety. To talk about, again, an 0-5 to OMG type of season, nothing more can be said. And I wanted more celebrations after the Mets clinched their ticket and punched their ticket to the NLDS. And I said, I'm not done here. I'm getting greedy. I want to see more celebrations. And that's what we got right here. Look at these guys. This is a fun time. More of this, please. I need more of this. And I'm still not satisfied. I'm not. LFGM, change the narrative. I've been saying it for about a week and a half now. That's my hashtag, and that is what I'm going by with these New York Mets in the 2024 postseason. Change the narrative. Again, I appreciate you all. Make sure you follow me over on X and Instagram at CPNY Sports. Hit those thumbs up buttons. Subscribe to the channel for more 2024 Mets content, both postseason, pre-games, post-games, off-day streams, the whole 9 yards. Off-season content will be up and active when we get at it, and when the season officially over. Hopefully, the Mets have a lot more games left to play. Hopefully, they're able to get over the next hurdle, which is the NLCS and into the World Series. Would love for nothing more than that. So very proud of this team no matter what happens, though. So very proud of this team. Appreciate everybody in the live chat section. Appreciate everybody that voted or chose to vote in the poll. I'll see you all later, whether it's a roundtable or another off-day podcast. But NLCS Game 1, still TBD on time. We don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be later in the night, with it being the only game that's going to be happening that day. But again, with the MLB scheduling, nothing is going to surprise me anymore. So I'll have you covered for pregame and postgame on Sunday for NLCS Game 1. Let's go Mets. LFGM, change the narrative. Catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest content on the channel. Thank you.